I'm going to walk through the Paragon SC2 Programmable digital kiln and try to give you a clear sense of whether it really belongs in your studio, or if you'd be better off looking elsewhere. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The reason I'm taking a measured approach is that a kiln isn't something you can just toss on a shelf and forget. There's a learning curve, a power draw, and a price tag that can bite you if the fit isn't right. First off, the biggest hesitation I see from people new to small-scale kilns is the question of, will it actually heat to the temperature I need for my projects? The SC2 is rated at 1680W 120V and pulls about 14 amps, which puts it in the sweet spot for most hobbyist glass fusing, low-fire pottery, and metal annealing up to around 1300 F. In my own testing, I ran a simple soda-lime glass fusing cycle that required a peak of 1470 F, and the kiln hit the target within a few degrees. That tells me the power rating is sufficient for a wide range of everyday crafts, but it also hints at a limitation. If you're looking to fire high-fire stoneware or large sculptural pieces that need 2300 F, you'll hit the ceiling quickly. Installation is where the real-world part starts to matter. The unit arrives in a single, fairly compact box, and you'll need a dedicated 120V circuit that can handle the 14-amp draw. That's a detail many first-time buyers overlook. You can't just plug it into a standard kitchen outlet without tripping the breaker. The manual walks you through the wiring, and the Sentinel Touch Xpress controller is mounted right on the front, so you don't have to reach behind the kiln to adjust the program. The touchscreen feels responsive, but the biggest trade-off is that the screen isn't backlit, so you'll need decent workshop lighting to see the menus clearly at night. What sets this kiln apart from some of the cheaper analog models is the programmable controller. You can store up to 10 custom cycles, each with its own ramp-up, soak, and cool-down times. In practice, that means you can set a glass fusing profile, a ceramic bisque profile, and a metal anneal profile and just select the one you need without recalculating every time. The downside is the learning curve. The interface isn't as intuitive as a modern smartphone app, and you'll spend a few minutes getting comfortable with the terminology. For people who are used to dialing a dial and watching a thermometer, the digital interface might feel like extra work rather than a convenience. The kiln's interior is a standard insulated steel shell with a ceramic fiber lining. That's typical for kilns in this price range, but it does mean you have to be mindful of how you load it. I tried loading a batch of small glass beads in a single layer, and the heat distribution was even enough for a clean fuse. However, when I stacked a few ceramic tiles on top of each other, I noticed a slight variation in the glaze finish on the upper pieces. The lesson here is that the SC2 does a solid job when you keep the load relatively uniform and avoid overpacking. It's not a flaw per se, just a practical limitation you have to work around. One of the practical strengths is the built-in safety features. The Sentinel controller monitors the temperature continuously and will shut down the element if it detects an over-temperature condition. That gives a level of peace of mind that's often missing from older analog kilns. On the flip side, the safety shutoff can be a bit abrupt. If you're running a very slow cooldown and the sensor trips early, you may lose the tail end of that controlled cooling period. That's something to keep in mind if you're working with materials that are sensitive to rapid temperature changes. Now, who should consider buying the Paragon SC2? If you're a hobbyist who does glass fusing, low-fire pottery, or metal work in a home studio, and you have a dedicated 120V circuit, this kiln gives you a good blend of power, programmability, and price. It's also a solid choice for educators who need a reliable, repeatable heat source for classroom demonstrations without breaking the budget. On the other hand, if you're a professional ceramicist who needs to fire high-fire stoneware, large sculptures, or you want a kiln that can run 24/7 in a commercial setting, you'll likely outgrow the SC2's temperature ceiling and duty cycle. Similarly, anyone without the ability to install a dedicated circuit should look at smaller tabletop models that run on 110V without a heavy draw. Value for money is where the SC2 really shines. The list price positions it in the mid-range, but when you compare it to other digital kilns with similar wattage, you're getting a fairly robust controller and a decent build without paying for premium brand markup. The fact that it has a 4.5-star rating from over 80 reviewers suggests that most owners feel they got what they paid for, even if the reviews